In the heart of the rolling hills of Mbeta, where the air always smelled of warm dust and rain-thirsty earth, lived a woman named Adala. Her name meant daughter of the land, and indeed, everything about her seemed carved from the soil: her strength, her silence, her beauty. Her skin glowed dark like roasted shea, her laughter could fill a room, and her hands knew both the rhythm of pounding yam and the precision of sewing ceremonial cloth. She was married to Obina, the quiet, thoughtful son of the late village blacksmith. When he chose Adala as his bride, many young women had scoffed. "She is too serious," they said, "too sharp-tongued, and she doesn't even know how to flatter." But Obina only smiled. "It is her mind I am marrying, her laughter, her soul." They married under the oldest baobab tree, the one at the center of Mbeta, which the elders claimed was planted by the village's founder generations ago. That day it rained blessings, literally. A soft drizzle fell, even though the skies were clear, a sign, they said, that the ancestors approved. The first year of marriage came and went. No child. The second, third, fourth. Still no child. By the 6th year, the whispers had become sharp stones. Maybe she angered the river goddess. I hear she was too proud. The womb hates pride. Obina should take another wife before his line ends. Adala kept her head high in public, but at night she curled into herself like a dry leaf. She would sit by the moonlight and whisper prayers to stars, to ancestors, to anything that would listen. Her mother-in-law, Mama Nkechi, who had once called her a blessing to our home, now avoided her eyes. "I had 5 children by the time I was her age," the old woman would say loudly when neighbors visited. Obina never raised his voice in defense, but he acted. He stood beside Adala at every gathering, turned away proposals of other women, and built a special prayer hut at the edge of their compound, just for her to have quiet time. "We are a family," he told her one evening, as she wept beside him under the open sky. "Children or not, I chose you, not your womb." But Adala could not stop the ache. She tried all the remedies. Mama Nyale, the village medicine woman, gave her bitter roots and wild bark to chew. Baba Onu, the spirit man, demanded a goat sacrifice and 3 days of silence. She obeyed them all. Still, her womb remained as quiet as dry season soil. By the 9th year of their marriage, almost everyone in the village had turned their backs on them. People no longer greeted Adala with smiles. They whispered when she passed by. Some crossed the road to avoid walking near her. Others told their children not to visit her home, warning them, "She carries a curse, you might catch it." Adala could feel it everywhere, the stares, the coldness, the judgment. Women who once invited her to gatherings now left her name off the list. The monthly Women's Moon Circle, where wives shared stories, food, and laughter, quietly stopped inviting her. At the market, she noticed her vegetables stayed on the mat longer, while others sold out. Traders glanced at her with pity or annoyance. Even the village children began to mimic what they heard at home. One day, as she walked through the busy market holding a small yam in her hand, a boy, barely 10, pointed at her and shouted, "Empty basket! Empty basket!" The crowd around him laughed. Adala stood frozen for a moment, her heart pounding. Then she dropped the yam and ran all the way home, tears hot on her cheeks. That evening, sitting beside the cooking fire, Adala looked at Obina and said softly, "Maybe I should leave. You deserve a full life, one that isn't filled with shame because of me." Obina turned to her, eyes calm but steady. He took her face gently in his hands. "You are the life I prayed for," he whispered. "Let the world mock me if it must. I will never mock you. You are not leaving. We stay together. I didn't marry you because I was hoping for children. I married you because your spirit called to mine, because your laughter fills our home, and your strength holds me up when I am weak. If the world chooses to mock us, let them. Their voices cannot shake the foundation we built." He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly, as if the very act could shield her from the weight of a cruel village. On a quiet morning, just before the Harmattan winds began to blow, Adala heard a faint cry. It came from the base of the very baobab where she and Obina had wed. She followed the sound, and there, wrapped in old cloth, was a baby, a girl. No note, just a single white cowrie tied into the cloth, a symbol in Mbeta that meant given to the gods. Adala picked up the child, and the baby quieted. Their eyes locked. She ran home, breathless. Obina came to the door, and when he saw the child, he didn't ask questions. "She came to you," he said, touching the baby's tiny forehead. "She chose you." They named her Naya, meaning purpose. The village gossiped again. Some claimed Adala had stolen a baby. Others said it was a spirit child that would bring ruin. But Obina and Adala shut their gates to the noise and opened their hearts to the child. By the age of 5, she could sing all the ancient praise songs and recite lineage poems. She learned from the elders, sat beside Mama Nyale, and even convinced Obina to let her train at the herbal hut. The villagers began to notice. Naya's presence brought peace. Children stopped falling ill around her. One night during a thunderstorm, she placed a palm on a pregnant woman's belly who was crying in pain, and the woman's pain vanished. "She's not just a child," they said. "She's something greater." And Adala? She glowed. Motherhood had bloomed in her, not through blood but through spirit. Her laughter returned, her voice soft. And just when she had found her peace with this new version of family, another miracle. At 47, Adala began to feel strange. Sick, fatigued, hungry at odd hours. Her back hurt. The healer frowned during a checkup and sent for Mama Nyale. The old woman smiled as she touched Adala's belly. "You are not sick," she said. "You are with child, and not just one, 2. Adala sat quietly on the wooden stool outside their hut, the evening sun casting long shadows across the compound. The baobab rustled gently behind her as if it too was holding its breath. Obina approached from the forge, hands still dark with soot, a tired smile on his face. She looked up at him, eyes shining, not with tears this time, but something softer, something fuller. "Obina," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I'm not sick." He paused, sensing the weight in her tone. "What do you mean?" She took his hand and pressed it gently to her belly. "I'm with child. 2, actually. Twins." For a moment, the world around him froze. Obina blinked, searching her face for a joke, a mischief, a dream, but all he saw was truth, and a joy so fragile it made his knees tremble. His lips parted, but no words came, just a long, shaky breath. Then he dropped to his knees before her, both hands now cradling her stomach. "Twins?" he echoed, like he needed to hear it in the air again to believe it. She nodded, smiling. 2 heartbeats. I heard them. Obina laughed, wild, unfiltered, and from deep within. Not the laughter of amusement, but of a man who had walked through the fire and found rain on the other side. He pulled her into his arms, whispering over and over again, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And that night, as they lay beneath the stars, Obina didn't sleep. He just watched her, hand on her belly, and whispered prayers of gratitude to every ancestor he could remember. Upon receiving the news, the entire village erupted in disbelief. The news spread through Mbeta like wildfire carried on the wind. "Adala is with child. Not just one. Twins." At first, people laughed nervously, thinking it was a cruel rumor. After all, wasn't she the one they had mocked for over a decade? The woman they said was cursed, dry, forgotten by the gods. But when Mama Nyale herself stepped forward and confirmed it, when she stood at the market square with her voice raised and firm, saying, "The womb they called Barren now holds 2 lives," the village erupted into disbelief. Mothers clutched their chests. Elders sat down abruptly, as though the earth beneath them had shifted. Some villagers wept openly, not just from surprise, but from shame. Shame that their words had once carried poison. Shame that they had turned their backs on a woman who had done nothing but love and endure. The same neighbors who had once crossed the road to avoid Adala now lined up at her gate, holding gifts, yam bundles, beads, handmade cloths, baskets of guava. Their faces were clouded with guilt and awe. "Forgive us," one woman said, eyes wet. "We mocked what we did not understand." Even Mama Nkechi, her voice once sharp as a thorn against Adala, arrived trembling. She stood at the doorway like a shadow of her former pride. The old woman's hands, once folded in judgment, now clutched a wrapper for the unborn children. She fell to her knees. "Adala, my daughter," she said, her voice cracking. "I was wrong. May the ancestors forgive me. But first, may you forgive me." Adala, standing with Obina beside her, said nothing at first. She let the silence stretch, not out of malice, but because she needed to feel the weight of the moment. Then she reached out, took Mama Nkechi's hands, and helped her to her feet. "There is nothing to forgive," she said gently. "We were all waiting for the same miracle. It just didn't come on your timeline. It came on the ancestors." And in that moment, the village began to change. The mocking stopped. The pity turned into reverence. The woman once called cursed became a symbol of grace, endurance, and the slow, sweet justice of time. When Adala gave birth to twin boys, healthy, loud, and full of life, the news rang through Mbeta like the sound of a victory drum echoing through the hills. They were born just before dawn, as the sky shifted from deep blue to soft amber, with dew still clinging to the grass outside the hut. Their cries rose like song, powerful and clear, announcing their arrival to the world. One had a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon on his shoulder. The other gripped Adala's finger so tightly the midwife gasped. Obina, who had waited outside with bare feet in the red earth, rushed in as soon as he heard them cry. He fell to his knees at the sight, his wife glowing with exhaustion and glory, and two tiny bundles swaddled beside her. He wept, not silent, hidden tears, but full-bodied sobs, of relief, of disbelief, of joy stored up over 11 long years. The midwife, Mama Nyal, placed her hands on Obina's shoulders and whispered, "You are now father not once, but twice. The ancestors have poured your cup until it overflowed." By midday, the entire village gathered outside the compound. The drummers came without being called. The women of the moon circle, once silent toward Adala, arrived carrying gifts, baby wrappers, beaded rattles, carved name staffs. The old men blessed the ground. The young girls sang songs. People said, "The woman they shamed has become the pride of the village." Others whispered, "She waited long, but look, when her womb opened, it brought forth kings." And many swore they saw 2 doves circling the baobab tree, as the twins were named Tari and Dalu, names meaning joy has come and gratitude. They didn't just see Adala as a mother now, they saw her as a symbol of strength, of divine timing, of a quiet resilience that outlasts cruelty and blooms in its own time. The people of Mbeta said the ancestors had not just heard her cries, but had repaid her years of sorrow with double joy, enough to quiet every mocking voice and heal every wound. And Adala, she simply looked down at her sons, then at her daughter Naya, and whispered, "My heart has never been this full." That night, Adala held Naya close as the twins slept in a woven basket. "You were not the child I asked for. You were the child I didn't know I needed. You taught me how to be a mother. You made my heart expand in ways I never thought possible. Because of you, I learned how love can take root in soil we didn't plant ourselves." She smiled, a soft, full smile only a mother could wear. "You were not an answer to my pain. You were the start of my healing. You were the beginning of everything. They said I was cursed, that my arms would never hold a child of my own. For years, I believed them. For years, I walked around with an empty ache inside me. But then you came, not from my womb, but from the hands of destiny itself." She pressed a soft kiss to Naya's forehead, her eyes glistening with tears that had nothing to do with sorrow and everything to do with gratitude. As years passed, Naya blossomed into a woman of quiet wisdom and rare intuition. By the time she was in her early 20s, her name was spoken with reverence not just in Mbeta, but in villages far beyond the hills. People began calling her the Womb Whisperer. It wasn't a title she gave herself. It was whispered by the first woman she helped conceive, a woman who had been barren for over 14 years. After weeks under Naya's care, drinking herbal infusions, receiving her soothing palm massages, and simply being listened to, the woman returned months later, cradling a growing belly. She doesn't just treat the body, the woman said. She speaks to the spirit. She touches the womb as if it's a child already waiting to be born. From that day, the name stayed. Naya's healing hut became a sacred space for women. Some came wrapped in silence, heavy with shame and despair. Others came angry, at the gods, at their bodies, at time. Many had already seen medicine men, spiritualists, and travelled days on foot or cart. She welcomed them all. She brewed teas from wild hibiscus, ground bark, and seed. She taught breathing rituals passed down by Mama Nayal and combined them with new techniques she'd discovered. She performed soft massage rituals on women's abdomens while humming ancestral lullabies. And most powerfully, she listened. For many of the women, that was the first healing. Just being seen, just being held. Not every woman left with a pregnancy, but every woman left with something. Hope, peace, acceptance, or strength. Some came back months later with babies in arms. Others returned not pregnant but radiant, no longer haunted by shame. One widow from Okpara told the village, "She gave me back my voice. Even without a child, I now walk with dignity." Naya's influence began to shift the very culture. Villages that once cast out barren women began inviting them to community gatherings again. A new respect was forming for the idea that motherhood was not only about birthing life, but about nurturing it in all its forms. And through it all, Naya remained humble. When people asked her where she learned her healing, she always said the same thing. "I learned by watching my mother be broken, and then watching her rise. My mother taught me that love can heal even the most silent womb." When Mama Nyali passed, Naya inherited the healer's hut. But she built something more, a center where women could gather without fear, be they mothers, widows, or those still waiting. She told her story often. "My mother was mocked. She was told her womb was dry. But love is more fertile than the soil of Mbeta. I am living proof." In the end, the village learned this. Sometimes the baobab blooms late, but when it does, it gives fruit sweeter than any mango and shade wide enough for generations. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more stories.